Hi, Rory here from hypnosiscourses.com. This video is all about how to write hypnosis scripts, and whether that's a script for hypnotherapy when seeing therapy clients, helping people, or for entertainment hypnosis, so stage or street hypnosis. Sometimes it can be good to have a script to know what you're going to be saying, what you're going to be doing, and we tend to think of scripts as potentially being limiting. However, they can be a very useful tool when you're starting out in the hypnosis world. I mean, I've been doing hypnosis now for over a decade, well over a decade actually, and I started out using scripts. Now, I don't really use them at all unless there's something very specific and intricately worded that I need to say. Maybe I'd use a script at that point. However, for me now, scripts tend to be a bit more limiting than helpful, because when you're working with hypnosis, when you're seeing a hypnotherapy client or doing some fun stuff, it can be nice to do it more intuitively, to see what's going on and work with the person that you've got in front of you. That tends to be great, but you have to start somewhere. So scripts are a great way to do that. So let's think about hypnotherapy first. So if you're writing a hypnotherapy script, ideally it helps to know the client that you're going to be seeing and what they actually want to achieve. Sure, you can write a script for a condition such as smoking or anxiety or weight loss, whatever it is. But that client that you see and every other client for that condition may not fit that script, because different people have different ways of doing problems, and they have different goals that they want to achieve from a therapy session. Also, people have different life experiences. You might be doing like a weight loss script, and if you put something about them not going to the cupboard to get snacks out of the cupboard, they may not have a cupboard full of snacks in their house. So you have to be aware that different people have different experiences. So ideally, if you can tailor your script to the specific client you have in front of you, it will generally be much more effective. There's nothing to stop you writing a kind of generic script that you can then go on to tailor during a session so that you can fit it to that client specifically. So think in terms of a client goal rather than the problem. Sure, you can build in some of the symptoms, some of the things that they experience, some of the things that they no longer want to experience, but maybe leave some areas blank for where you can expand and build in some of the client's hobbies and interests to make it bespoke, to make it specific to them. Having a script and having a plan is kind of like having a nice support net, because you kind of know where you're going to go with it, but by having that there, you're free to move off script and be more intuitive with the suggestions that you're giving them, because you can always go back to the script if you need to. So it's a really nice kind of safety blanket to get you started. Now, with your hypnotherapy scripts, you might use direct suggestions, you might use indirect suggestions. So the difference is direct suggestions do as they say on the tin. They're very, very direct. You're telling someone specifically, explicitly what you want them to do, such as for smoking. When you leave this room, you will be a non-smoker. You will take great pleasure in breathing fresh air. And any time you smell cigarette smoke, you'll feel absolutely repulsed. So all of those were direct suggestions telling someone how to experience that when they move away from the hypnotherapy session. Indirect suggestions, there are a lot more different types of them, but focusing on one, just for this video, permissiveness. You can make your direct suggestions more indirect, less commanding, and more like they have the illusion of choice. So with a similar suggestion kind of for smoking. So perhaps when you leave the therapy room, you may notice that the smell of cigarette smoke doesn't appeal to you anymore. And perhaps you'll find that being a non-smoker will help you to live a wonderful, happy, healthy life. I'm not telling you that you have to do this. I'm giving the option. And a lot of clients do appreciate having the option, as well as sometimes being told what to do. As well as that, we also have metaphors. Now, some therapists prefer to, give direct suggestions and tell clients what to do, whether directly or indirectly. Others prefer to tell stories. Now, whether that's stories about past clients or people that you know, or whether it's stories that are maybe a little more outlandish and feature, cartoon characters, that kind of thing. There are many different benefits to having metaphors, but fundamentally, the key benefit is that clients don't feel like they're being told what to do with a metaphor, because they're just listening to a story. It's not about them, it's about somebody else. But as a hypnotist, you can slip in suggestions, embedded commands, and interspersing different ideas into your metaphor. That means as they listen to that, they're subtly and subconsciously receiving suggestions for how to act. And also, they'll draw a parallel in their own way to that metaphor, meaning they can create a change that's right for them. It becomes a more bespoke process, yet again, for that client. So metaphors are really, really useful. It can be good as a hypnotherapist, to have a couple of metaphors that are your go-tos that can be broadly applicable to any client, or that you can tweak slightly to make it appropriate for that client. And then once you've practiced it, you will find that by reading your scripts, eventually all that information will go in and you will know it. And when you know it, that gives you the freedom to help anyone at any time. With your metaphors, with your suggestions, it is important that you make them flow. And again, if you're just starting out in the hypnotherapy world or the hypnosis world, then it might not flow initially, but that's where practice comes in. If you've got a script, the great thing about that is you can read it, and you can read it over and over. So you're reading the same stuff, and you can practice hearing how it sounds. You can record it and play it back to yourself. So when you listen to it, you think, oh, that transition from that suggestion to that one wasn't that good. Let's do it again, see what I can do differently. So it's a really good way to troubleshoot what it is that you're doing. Now, going back to creating your suggestion, we talked about hypnotherapy, but also with stage and street hypnosis. You can use your scripts to create your suggestions. Obviously, though, with this, unlike hypnotherapy, where you're in a room one-to-one with someone, their eyes are closed, you can read from a script. With stage hypnosis and street hypnosis, it doesn't really work quite that way. Imagine a stage hypnotist coming out and going, "Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? I am the hypnotist, and I'm about to hypnotize." It just looks bad. It looks like you don't know what you're doing, and you need to know this stuff because they expect you to, and also it would look really weird if someone had a script going onto a stage. However, it's a great way to practice and to get used to the kind of suggestions that you might give. Now, if you write your suggestions and they're perfect and they've got all of these embedded language patterns and presuppositions and all sorts of things in them, and then when you actually go to deliver it, it doesn't have all of those things, it's not the end of the world. Mostly with suggestions, with your scripts, if you can take the key elements and you can bullet point them down to as simple a chunks as you can remember, that is a great way to get started to move away from scripts. So every time you practice using that script, try and use as few words as a prompt as possible so you can get the same kind of outcome. Once you know what it is that you're going to say, it's at that point where you can then start to refine the words that you're using and start incorporating these indirect and complex hypnotic language patterns that will make it more successful. But generally with entertainment hypnosis, keeping it simple for a start is a really good way to do it. And also, I think a final point really is with entertainment, with hypnotherapy, whatever it is, with your suggestions, repetition is key. It is important to repeat your suggestions at least a couple of times so that people get it, so that people understand, and repeating it sometimes in slightly different ways as well. Because sometimes in hypnosis we can kind of phase in and out. Sometimes we're relaxing and not necessarily paying as much attention as we could be to the person, to the hypnotist. Other times we're paying a lot of attention. However, if one of those times where we're not paying attention, that was an important suggestion, hearing it again will definitely help. And also hearing it said in a slightly different way is very, very useful because it will help people to connect to it in a different way. Me saying, okay, from this point onwards, whenever you sit down in that chair, it's going to be as if there's itching powder and it's tickling your bum and itching your bum, that kind of thing. Sort of weird example. If I said that a couple of times, well, you kind of realize that it's a bit samey, oh God, again. Whereas if I said it slightly differently the second time, so when you sit down in this chair, there's going to be itching powder, it's going to be itching your bum, tickling your bum. So whenever you sit down in that chair, it's as if your pants are filled with itching powder. So saying it slightly different but with the same outcome is a really useful way, and people can connect to it in a slightly different way, because people might think, oh, itching powder on the chair, can't really connect to it. Oh, itching powder down my trousers. Oh yes, I can definitely connect to that. With a therapy example, for examples, if you're working with an insomnia client, perhaps you'll say something along the lines of, okay, tonight when you go to sleep, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you'll sleep like a log all night long. If you then said exactly the same thing, no, tonight when you go home, go to sleep, your head hits the pillow, you'll sleep like a log all night long, they might think the record got stuck, and it's a bit too obvious. So instead you may say, tonight when you go to sleep, your head hits the pillow, you'll sleep like a log all night long. And as soon as your head hits that pillow, you'll find you drift off immediately and instantly deeply into a wonderful, restful sleep. So I've fundamentally said the same thing twice, just found a slightly different way to say it and a different way to connect to those ideas. So writing scripts, whether for entertainment or therapy, is a great way to develop your skills. If you'd like some examples about the kind of things that you might start to put into your hypnotherapy scripts before you start to move away from using your scripts, then check out some of our courses. We've got courses on entertainment, hypnosis, hypnotherapy, even suggestibility testing on our website, which is hypnosiscourses.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. We are always happy to help. Thanks for watching.